Welcome to Hispanic Biz Success Stories. We interview business owners who built businesses to learn from them, how they built their business, why, and what kind of obstacles they faced, and how they've overcome them. We trust you enjoy the program. It's educational, but also that it shows you a lot about our community, which we cherish. We're very blessed today to have with us a guest, Norma Guzman Kennedy, who is the President COO of Sun City Security Services. Norma, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you sharing your story. A very interesting story. Tell me, what is Sun City Security Services?
Sun City Security Service is a private security company. We provide armed and unarmed security officers for residential, commercial, and industrial accounts.
And how old is Sun City Security Services?
Sun City Security was founded in 1978, so it's over 41 years old now.
Wow. But you didn't found the company.
No, I did not. No, that fell upon my father, and he had a business associate as well.
And you've just been in the company now as president for how long?
I started with Sun City Security in January of 2019, so this year.
Wow. So, but your father started the company.
Yes, sir.
What was your father's name?
My father's name was Bruno Torres, Jr.
And why did he start the business?
Well, necessity for the most part. My father was in the military, and he was 23 years in the Army, and he loved the military. And when he came near the end of his career, he was thinking, okay, I have a wife and 4 kids I need to support. So he had to decide. We were over in Germany, and he needed to make a decision where to retire and what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. So he chose Fort Bliss because most of our family's in South Texas. And so when he retired as a re-enlistment officer, we were just having our house built in the northeast part of El Paso. And my father was looking out one evening, and there was construction going all around because it was a new area, new development. And he saw some people going around the construction site kind of pilfering the supplies, the wood and whatnot. And so the next morning my dad woke up, went out really early and waited for the foreman, the construction foreman, to go out. And he introduced himself and he said, you know what? I saw all of these people stealing your supplies, and that's costing you a lot of money. He said, but what I will do for you, if you pay me, I'll patrol the street all night long, and I'll make sure nothing is stolen. And that's how he realized that there was a business in security.
Wow. Took care of other people. Where is he from, your father?
From Corpus Christi, Texas.
And a large family?
Very large family. My father was the eldest of 15 children.
Wow.
Yes, so I have a huge extended family in Corpus Christi.
And your mother?
My mother was born in East Germany. And so she was kind of born and raised on the other side of the wall. This is during wartime. And so she was born in a communist country.
Wow. What is her name?
Ursula Ingrid Torres.
And so, but your father was stationed in Germany for many years then?
Yeah, he was stationed in Germany, and that's where he always said, my girlfriend. He met his girlfriend over there. He was in a restaurant, and my mother was there with my Oma, my maternal grandmother, and he said that was it. He fell in love with her immediately, but he knew the waitress at this restaurant, and he realized that the waitress knew my mother. And so he gave this waitress a lot of money, to give her the address of my mother. And so that day, my father, a young GI overseas, he shows up at my Opa, which is my maternal grandfather, shows up at my Opa's door in Bermuda shorts, a white T-shirt, and chanclas, and knocked on the door and asked for Ursula. And my Opa promptly shut the door in his face.
Wow, that's interesting. And so where were you born?
I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And how many brothers and sisters you have? 3?
I have 3 brothers. I have 2 older brothers, Bruno the third. I have Michael Anthony, and then my youngest brother, Alexander.
Okay. And so when did you all return to El Paso? You were already out of middle school, or?
Yeah, out of middle school, and we came to El Paso in 1978. And so that's where we started the school system stateside. And I went to Andrus High School. All my brothers we went to Andrus High School, and then I graduated in 1985.
Wow. So you speak German?
I do. German is my first language. It's my first language. My two older brothers also speak German fluently. My younger brother, no. He only speaks English. But my father understood German by this time.
And you speak some Spanish?
I speak Spanish a little bit. I understand more than what I speak. I learned it once I moved to El Paso.
So your father started this business, but you didn't work in it when he started. But you grew up in the business.
Yes.
So what was
I
that
did
like?
not. I was not a paid employee, but Sun City Security actually started in my parents' garage. And so the first guard was my dad, and the first HR, payroll, client relations was my mother. And back then there weren't multiple lines. Party lines weren't even around back then. So there was one phone number. We had two lines, and we would answer the phone. And whenever the phone would ring, you know, the TV would go off, the radio would go off. We'd throw the dog outside, and we'd have to answer Sun City Security. How may we help you? And so I would have to help with the uniforms, washing the uniforms. Yeah, and I think because my dad's history with the military, he took a lot of pride in appearance. And so before we issued out the uniforms, we would have to make sure they were washed and ironed. I'd have to have the 3 pleats in the back. That was my job. I didn't get paid, but that was my job.
So what kind of man was your dad?
My dad was a wonderful man, very honorable, a lot of integrity, but he was a people person above all things. He could walk into a room with 20 strangers and then leave with 20 new friends. He was really respected and loved by his employees a lot.
And your mom?
My mom was a very quiet person because of her background, because she grew up in a communist country. During the wartime, it was better not to be seen and heard. And so that lifestyle kind of carried her through. She was a very soft-spoken woman, quiet, but very strong. You know, they say the man is the head, but my mother was certainly the neck. You know, so he did everything for my mother.
And was your father an entrepreneur?
Most definitely. My dad was always working. Even in Germany when he was in the military, he also ran a movie theater. And then when he wasn't doing that, he was a janitor, sweeping up, you know, different places of business. He was always working in other jobs. There's just one story, which is quintessential my dad. There used to be a arts and crafts store in El Paso called Ben Franklin Crafts. And they were getting rid of these little tiny acrylic colorful boxes, little tiny boxes. And my dad said, well, what are you going to do with that? And they said, well, we're just going to throw them away. He said, can I have them? They said, sure. So he comes home and he has these bags of like 300 or 400 of these little acrylic boxes. And my mom is like, well, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, I'm going to make money off of them. And she's like, how? So what he did is he took about $50 and he bought a whole bunch of tiny little mice, like little plastic mice. And he put them in these acrylic boxes. And then they lived by a park in the Northeast. And every weekend there would be soccer, baseball, all of these events. And so he would always take my two older brothers out. And he was selling these things. And he would go up to somebody and said, you know, I'm selling elephant repellents. And then the people were like, well, there's no elephants here. He's like, you see, they work. And he said it was for $1. And so it was a kitsch thing. But he came back and told my mom, you see, I got $300 here.
Really?
That was, yeah, he sold all of them.
Wow.
That was my dad.
So how fast did, he's named it Sun City Security from the beginning?
Yes, from the very beginning, Sun City Security
And
Service.
how fast did it grow?
At first it was slow. I mean, a new business, and it always takes about 5 years before you see any kind of return on your investment in the time. But slowly but surely it started to grow, you know. Dad went out after a big hotel chain. It was a national chain. And I mean, he just kept romancing all of the different site managers, and eventually they gave him the business. And that's what really started Sun City, because then it wasn't one site, it was multiple sites around the city. So that forced him then to hire guards, more guards.
And so he learned the business rather quickly then?
Yes.
And how big did it get to grow?
I think in its heyday, the largest that Sun City had in terms of employees, I think they had over 200 employees.
And but he hadn't studied business.
No, no, my father had a high school education and street smarts.
Now, your brothers, they got into the business.
Actually, all of us, in one form or another. Two of my older brothers were security officers. They, Dad needed guards, and by golly, you're going to be a guard. And so they were put in uniform and had to go through the whole background check, and, they worked in there. And then my eldest brother, near the end of Dad's life, he was stepping in to kind of take over the helm, but Dad really liked things a certain way, and it was hard for him to kind of let go of the controls a little bit, where my eldest brother Bruno, kind of had his own ideas of where he wanted to take the company. And so there was a little back and forth, but at one form or another, we've all worked there at Sun City.
So the last years, because your father passed.
My father passed away in 2017.
He was ill?
Yes, he was ill. He had diabetes, for 20 years prior to that. And he had heart problems. But I think a lot of that then was exacerbated. There were issues within the company, He had a business partner, and there were some improprieties, and so they decided to go their separate ways. But that, in turn, caused some health issues, more complicated health issues for my dad.
So he had a partner all the way through?
He had a partner all the way through until about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
5 years ago, yeah.
So that affected him,
Certainly. It affected his health. There was a lot of stress that went along with that, and,
He felt betrayed.
He felt betrayed. There were wounded feelings.
Sure.
And so when you invest 35 years with somebody, day in, day out, and you're building something together, it took a toll on him, on his health.
But he wasn't planning to go. He was.
No. He was not planning. My father worked 5 days till before my father passed away. He was in the office.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened then? He passes away, and then what happened?
So he passed away, and everything went to my mother. He gave the entire company to my mother. My mother, she hadn't been involved with the company because it had grown so much, and it moved out of our garage, 30-something years ago. So she was a little out of her league, and she was overwhelmed. And so she asked her children to help, to kind of step in. So all of us, the four of us, we got together, and we were like kind of looking at it and looking at, the business as a whole, what the strengths were and what the weaknesses were. And we kind of just said, okay, this is where we want to go. And we took it from there. So everything would run through my mother, and she would have the final say, because I think she had my dad's interest, and she knew his heart, and she knew his mind and how he would want to do it. So, for the most part, she'd acquiesce to what we wanted, but there were times where she's like, no, your father would not want that.
She knew the culture.
Inside and out. She knew him inside and out, and what he would have liked and what he would not have liked.
So she ended up running the business.
She ended up running the business at the end of the day, yes.
And how long was she able to do that?
Well, she really missed my dad. And she died within the year of his death.
Really?
She needed to be with him.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so, within 1 year, my dad was gone. And then a couple months later, my mother's gone. And my mother left the entire company then to me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So where were you working when all of that?
I was working with El Paso Water at the time, and I was working in their conservation department, and I was part of their succession plan, and I was working on our commercial accounts, the city's commercial accounts, bringing down water consumption and building programs, and I felt like I was just finally in my stride, like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to work with El Paso Water, and I'm going to help bring down water consumption for commercial accounts.
Wow. So after high school, what did you do?
After high school, I started working right away. Both of my parents, they wanted me to go to college, and I always thought, I'm going to take a year off. That never happens. Either you go or you don't. So I started working in one capacity or another. I think I got a salesman kind of shtick from my father. I was working at a place called The Popular.
Oh, yes.
Yes, The Popular. And I worked in the cosmetics department. And I remember I was doing makeovers, and there a lady who owned Tri-State Beauty Schools, she she liked me, and she liked what I did, and she offered me the opportunity to work for her, selling beauty products and giving beauty consultations. And so I did. I went to go work for Tri-State Beauty School for a while.
Wow. How many years did you do that?
I think I was at Tri-State for about 2 years,
Okay.
2 or 3 years, and Carolyn Parker was the owner, and just the most wonderful, beautiful person.
So she trained you in that.
Yes, yes, she trained me on customer service. She was
Okay.
a real lady.
And then and after, because that time they didn't have female security guards, did they?
No, not really,
Yeah.
not really. 1 or 2, but not really. And then after that, working in Tri-State Beauty School, I got to meet a hair care rep and selling hair care products. And so he hired me away from them, and it was a salesman job, but in New Mexico. And so it was a lot of traveling. And being a young woman, I was in my early 20s, traveling to New Mexico by myself. It was a little disconcerting, and I know it bothered my parents greatly. That if something would happen, what would happen to you? There were no cell phones back then, you know?
Oh, that's right.
And what would you do, and where would you go? And so it was always on the back of my mind, okay, this is not going to be a permanent thing for me. And so they were hiring at Helena Troy. And I was hired there in their marketing department.
Okay.
And that's when I was put in that marketing department, that's when I realized this is what I like to do. I love marketing.
Okay, so you worked for Jerry Rubin for a while.
Yes.
For how long did you work for them?
9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you learn in your work experience then?
I learned a lot. It depends on where I went, but what I learned there is never to give up, for one. And I was really blessed. When I worked at Helena Troy, my supervisor, she allowed me to fail. She wasn't always 10 steps ahead of me, blocking everything I would do, because then she would be always 10 steps ahead of me, trying to manage that. She actually did me a favor by allowing me to fail, not on anything really big, but just big enough to where I would learn a lesson, where my ego would be a little bruised, to where it would ring a bell the next time, okay, let's look at this differently. What could I have done differently? So she was really awesome in that way.
Wow. So she really trained you.
She really trained me because, you know, her style was different. It was different. I mean, she gave me a lot of autonomy, enough to where, you know, if I would make a mistake, but then I'd also have to be accountable for that mistake.
So when you were working water utilities, how long were you there?
I was with El Paso Water for 7 years.
Okay, so you had good experience.
Sure.
So all of a sudden now you have to leave that career and run the business.
Yes, it was a choice. You know, Mom left the company to me, and it was more out of a loyalty to my family that I made that choice to leave El Paso Water to work for Sun City Security. But I knew I had enough business experience. You know, up until that point, I had about 26 years of international business under my belt. So I knew I had like the basics, the fundamentals of running a company successfully. Plus, I also knew that Sun City had an amazing group of people that were working there already, that knew the business, that knew how to run it, and they kind of knew Dad's heart as well.
So you, at the I guess upper level of the business, you didn't have a lot of turnover. You had people stayed with the business for a long time.
Yes. Oh, yes. At the upper levels, you know, the security guard industry, there is a lot of churn at the security guard level, which is good. When we look for security officers, we look for criminal justice students, so that looks good on their resume, and we want them to succeed. We look for people that, young men and women that want to eventually work for El Paso Police Department and working as a security officer. That looks good on their resume, because we know those are the people that have the discipline, and so certainly.
So what do the security guards do?
What do security guards do? It depends. But if I had to like bottom line it and give a simple definition, they patrol, they observe, and they report. That's what they do. Now, we have some officers that are armed, and you know, they're trained and they're licensed through the state of Texas. And you know, under certain circumstances, they are allowed to draw that weapon. But thankfully, in the history of Sun City, we haven't had to do that.
Now, you operate under state authority?
Yes. All security companies in Texas, we are licensed by Texas Department of Public Safety. So that's our governing agency, is DPS.
And what kind of contracts do you manage now?
Right now, Sun City, we have several contracts, but of the larger ones, we have a couple of municipal contracts with the city, and then we have construction sites and some hotels as well.
And you work yourself. I mean, you were telling me you had to work this past weekend.
Oh yeah, it's all hands on deck. And if you are an owner or on a C-suite level, you actually put in a lot more than 50 hours a week because you're one of the first people in the office. You're working after hours. You're on the phone. You're kind of coordinating.
And you go into the field too.
Certainly, I go in the field. We check on officers all the time, all the time.
In your family, how many children do you have?
I have 2 sons, Nicholas and Nathan. Those are my 2 sons. And I also have a beautiful stepson. His name is Lanson.
And are you preparing them?
My son, Nicholas, he always wanted to be an architect. Always wanted to be an architect. And because he's really good at math. But after Dad passed away and we started helping Mom with the business, because of my background in business, I was looking at the financials and the balance sheets and things like that. And so I'd have documents spread on my dining room table. And Nicholas, he's my firstborn, so he's, my shadow. He would, Mom, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Help me calculate this. Help me look at that. And he changed his major. He said, I love this. I love this. So he's currently going to EPCC getting his basics, but he changed his major to business. So I brought him in. So he's sharing my office with me right now at Sun City. And I told him, I want you in every meeting. I want you to hear everything so that he can hear and have a very well-rounded picture of the business. Because eventually it's gonna fall to him.
And your husband, what does he do?
My husband is retired now, but he was a
Okay.
graphic artist.
Okay.
He does a lot of elance work with graphic artists. Everything is done digitally now.
Wow.
Over the internet.
So you come into the business now. People were used to your father
Yeah.
running the business, and all of a sudden now there's a change.
Yes.
Is that a challenge?
It is. It is because Dad had such a loyal group of people to him, and they could anticipate him because he was steady. His personality was very clear. They were loyal to him, but I'm not my father. I come with my own experiences. I come with my own successes and my own failures, and so I have my own way of doing things. I am my father's daughter. However, I am my own person as well, and so kind of inserting myself there, and they went through a loss too. I didn't just lose my father, but they lost someone that they worked for years, and I wanted to be respectful of that, but I also needed to draw a line like, okay, that's how we used to do it.
Wow.
And so now we're going to try it this way.
Were there major changes you had to make?
Well, maybe they would say major. I wouldn't. My dad was very old school, pen and paper, and so looking at computers and kind of making things go along with technology, that was the biggest challenge, to kind of make everything a little more smooth and put everything on web-based programs.
So you had to bring in technology.
I brought in technology. I sure did.
But that doesn't affect the employees, or does it?
Sometimes it does. Right now, it used to be where the employees would call in, that they're on site and call off. Well, now we have a software, that they have to put it on their smartphone, and we can GPS and we can see that they're there. Okay. And when they leave that site, like if they clock in and think that, I can leave, that we get an alarm on our system that says they've left this radius.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so, but that really doesn't happen. For the most part, people are pretty legitimate in terms of their employment.
So you've been running the business now for
9 months.
9 months. How do you like it?
I like it. It's a lot more work. It's a lot more work than what I thought it was going to be, but it truly is a labor of love. It is. I really care about our employees because how much they're willing to give. When I started, the first thing I did is I put both of my sons in uniform. They had to go through the background check. They had to go through the fingerprinting, everything, and I made them both work. And I made them both work a graveyard shift outdoors because I wanted to know what it felt like being a mother, having a child outside in the elements working, and it was nerve-wracking. I was afraid, certainly, but it gave me a really good perspective on our employees and what they have to put up with. I mean, summers are pretty brutal, but we live in a high desert, so the winters are pretty cold. And our officers, 90% of the time they're outdoors. And I wanted to know what that was, and I wanted to come from it from a perspective of a loved one.
How old are your sons?
19 and 18.
Okay. They're young, but they're old enough to be
They're
out
young and they're old enough. Oh no, my parents, there was no rest for us.
there. So what did they learn? What did your sons learn out there?
Patience, situational awareness for one, patience, and I think a good dose of humility. Because they knew that the company is ours, I don't ever want my children to have any kind of sense of superiority, if for lack of a better word. I want them to understand that it's a human experience that you have. Security guard work it's hard. You're literally walking for 8 to 10 hours a day, walking and looking and reporting, and you're not in an air-conditioned building or a warm, cozy place. And I wanted them to really understand what that is.
How large is your office staff?
We have 9 people inside our office.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
then
what it takes, huh?
Yeah, it takes. Yeah, it certainly does.
And were there cash problems when you took over the business? Cash flow?
I wouldn't say cash problems, but I think how we used our money is not the way I would have chosen to use it. So a lot of reinvesting it into things that would probably help us run smoother. It was just the way it was done when my dad was around. But when you invest in technology and then there's a training period, all of that comes at a cost. And so it was just something new and different. And you roll the dice, but it has to work. If you're going to be successful in the 21st century, you have to use technology.
Well, rolling the dice, but really you're prepared for it.
Absolutely.
You're prepared for that change.
Absolutely.
So here you are, having to take over your dad's business after he passes away, and your mom passed away, and you have to leave your career. But you've known the business since you were young.
Since we moved to the States.
So you're in a business that you didn't intend to run.
Yes.
Because there wasn't a plan for that.
No, it was not. It was not my plan.
But in fact, I guess your father had other plans.
Yeah.
For succession.
Absolutely.
But,
He wanted my eldest brother to take it over, but my eldest brother, he's more of in the field. He's not a numbers guy. He's just prefers to stay in the field.
So you're the chosen one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you destined to run the business?
That's an interesting question. If I was destined, I think I was destined to lead, in whatever capacity. That's my personality. I'm a go-getter. So whether it was Sun City or whether it was working for El Paso Water, I work hard. I'm a hard worker, and I push myself, and I everything I do is I try to do the best I can. So maybe that's what my mother saw and why she gave it to me. Because once I own something, and I don't mean a company, but whether it's a project or anything, then I throw everything I have at it. I don't like to do anything halfway.
So you're a self-learner. I mean, you didn't go to college after high school.
I did go to college, but it was years and years afterwards. And I was working full-time, and so I went to Park University, and I got my degree in business there.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
After working?
After work, yeah.
And why business?
Because my experience, all of my career up until that point was in business. It was in marketing and developing programs, and I loved it. I love business and I love marketing. I excel at that.
So your background that you were sharing was you were selling beauty products?
Yeah, I started off selling cosmetics, and then I was selling services and beauty products at Tri-State, and then I started selling hair care products. And then from there, I was hired at Helena Troy, and I was designing and developing products for larger retail. And then after that, I was given the opportunity to work in New York for a company called Almar Sales, and they had just acquired the license for Suave beauty products for hair care. And someone that I had worked with at Helena Troy asked if I wanted to work for Suave, and I said, yeah. So I did that for a while. But I had left my support. I had left my support structure. I had recently gone through a divorce. And I guess, I was running away from El Paso. I'm running away from that. And I had these 2 small children. And New York is a great place. The people are very friendly, but it's fast. And if you don't have a very good support system, you find out real fast how lonely you can be in a big city. And it was too much. It was just too much for me. And so I wanted to come back home to El Paso. And it's interesting that I say come back home to El Paso, because in the line of work that I was doing, I was traveling all over the world. We had factories in China and all over the place. And I was traveling, but I wanted to come home to El Paso. And so I was looking for any job. I would have taken anything to come back to El Paso. And there was an ad for a marketing manager for the El Paso Times. And I applied for that position, and I was given that position. And it wasn't what I had envisioned it was going to be. I was languishing there. There was a corporate culture that kind of came from the East Coast, and I wasn't used to it. So I thought, no, I'm going to look for something else. At least I was home, and I liked doing product development. I loved designing and developing products and finding holes in the market and developing products for that. And I thought, what other company in El Paso can give me that opportunity? I mean, that's really my mind thinking. And there was a company called Lala Imports, and they had the license for Martha Stewart and Michael Graves, and they did private label for Bed Bath & Beyond. And so I romanced their HR department. I mean, I was faithfully calling them. And
you found them and pursued them.
I found them and I wooed them. And I think they hired me just to get me to quit calling them.
Wow.
But and that's where I worked for years, for about 7 years.
Wow.
I loved it.
So you have this corporate experience.
Yes.
And your sales experience, and then your last work with water utilities. You're managing projects.
Yes.
So you have a lot more experience in terms of business than your father had, who built a business.
Correct.
But he built it from the ground. Now, when your father retired from the military, what was his work?
He was a re-enlistment officer.
Okay.
And so what he would do, when someone enlists in the military for the first time, they don't know what's ahead of them. After they're in the military and they serve their 4 years, then they have the opportunity to serve their country again, to re-enlist. But then they go in with eyes wide open. And it's a much more difficult sell, if you will, to get people to re-enlist in the military. And Dad did that. He was just a natural born salesman.
So that was his. But you essentially, you grew up, you were born in Corpus Christi, I understand.
Born in Corpus.
But you grew up in Germany.
I grew up in Germany, yes. Yeah.
And your brothers. So you've got this worldwide experience.
Yes.
And traveled the world. And now you're running a security service in El Paso.
Yes.
What's that like?
Well, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be running Sun City Security Service, I would have said, you're crazy. That was not on my radar at all. I really thought I was just, I'd found El Paso Water. They invested in me, and I invested my time and energy into everything in that job, and I loved it. And I thought that's where I was going to spend the rest of my career. But that wasn't meant to be, through these, the passing of my father and then subsequently my mother. And it came to me, our family motto is, ask anyone that's a Torres, it's family first. And so it was not a hard decision to make, to take over Sun City. It's a labor of love.
So when you go to meet old timers in your business, you say you're Bruno Torres' daughter?
Yes, yes. we have monthly meetings with different security-like companies, whether they're security guard, security training, locksmiths. So we have luncheons, and so we can all stay abreast of what's going on in the industry and any new laws that are, coming from DPS. And I met a lot of people that worked with my father, and it amazes me the effect my dad had. People would come up to me and said, you're Bruno's daughter. I loved Mr. Bruno. I loved Mr. Bruno. Whatever you need, if you need anything from me, mija, you let me know and I'll help you. Another gentleman who owns another company told me, Norma, before your dad died, he called me and asked me, hey, let's go out to lunch. Let's go out to lunch. And he said, I had so much going on. I couldn't do it. And he goes, and then, about 3 weeks later, I hear that your dad passed away. And he said, and I regret that every day. It's just, he really was an honorable man, and everybody really liked him.
So what's it like being a woman running a security business?
It has its challenges. It has its challenges because, the nature of the business, that you need to have a lot of physical presence. When you think of a security officer, just the physical presence should be a deterrence. And most of our officers, not all, but most of our officers are male and large male. And so they're taking a direction from a female, from a Hispanic female. I've had some challenges, but for the most part, I think because of my business acumen, they understand that I know what I'm talking about. I may not understand walking out in the security, walking and patrolling with them, but I do know what's best for them, and I look out for them.
So you come in to run the business 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't overwhelmed.
Is that an understatement?
Yes. Well.
Yes, I was. It was very overwhelming because you quickly realize it's not just you. It's not just your job. It wasn't just a decision that would have affected me. When I looked at, we have 85 employees, most of which it's a full-time position, meaning that's their job. If I made a decision that negatively affected Sun City, it wasn't just me. It was 85 other families that I could impact, and that means a lot to me. That means a lot.
So what is your challenge?
My challenge is to grow the business. So we're at a point now where we introduced a lot of technology. Now I need to grow. I need to grow the business. I need to diversify. A challenge with security companies as a whole, and not just Sun City Security, but across the nation, is there are larger national and international security companies, and they can leverage the economies of scale because they have so many different sites throughout the United States. So more often than not, they can undercut us in terms of a price. But so what we do in combatants to that is we sell our service. We are here, we are local, we have patrolling officers. You can call my cell phone 24 hours a day and I will pick up the phone. You cannot do that when you have a national company that's doing it. It's much more difficult. So looking ahead like 10 years down the road, in order for Sun City Security to be successful, patrolling is always going to be the core of our business. But I also now need to look at video surveillance, armored vehicles, canines, to diversify the business.
So all the strengths that you build up over the years and you come over to run the business, what strengths had you, in your experience, what strengths did you bring to the business that were vital to the business?
I think perseverance. When my dad died, it was a huge blow, and I think everyone kind of went into panic mode because he had such a firm grasp on the business. It was just intuitive to him. He wasn't trained in any university. He did it just, he was street smart. And so when he left, it created a huge vacuum, and I think everyone was just kind of afraid, like, what's going to happen to my job? Is Sun City Security going to close? And so when I came in and immediately had to kind of set some boundaries of this is how it's going to be, and here's why, and we're going to be in the long haul. I think just the perseverance. At first it was very long days and hours, nonstop, just to show the employees of Sun City Security that we're here. There's still a Torres. There's still a Torres in the business.
So there was a hiatus. I mean, when your father died, your mother, I guess, ran the business for a period of time. So there was a year of 2018.
Yes.
That your father wasn't there.
Yes.
The business was in transition. That was a trial for the business, for the employees, for everybody.
Absolutely. When the head of the company is gone, and then it's left to somebody else, and then they're immediately gone thereafter, you can't help but ask, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to the company I work for?
So how important is the leadership of a business then?
It's very important. You have to be there. You have to be present both physically and mentally at all times. I think one of the challenges is establishing legitimacy with the people that I work with. I'm not going to go away. I'm 100% in for Sun City Security. And this team that I have they're amazing. They're taking a chance on me.
So in one sense, stabilizing the business is to stabilize the employees' faith in the business.
Absolutely. Because if you work for a company that you're not sure of the leadership, or if you're not sure of the direction, then what's to stop you from looking somewhere else? What's to stop you from, I have this experience in security business. I can just take my skills and I can just go to this company over here, this competitor, and call it a day, and I don't even have to worry about it. But we didn't have that at Sun City.
But you're not experiencing chaos.
No, there's absolutely no chaos. No chaos at all. And I think a lot of that has to do some with my father, because he was so regimented from his military experience. I mean, he was very, very methodical, and his team was methodical in how they worked, how they perceived things, how they reacted to things. And a lot of that is ingrained in me. So when I come in, it wasn't unfamiliar to them. For me, it's all about processes, efficiencies, so they know that now.
So how are you different from your father?
I'm more patient. Where Dad was old school, but sometimes, choice words, he was just an ornery old man, and, he would just kind of blow up, and I'm like, Dad, you can't say that. Dad, you can't do that. So I think having that experience, because I grew up in the corporate world, I'm more patient, I'm a little more tolerant, a little more empathetic.
So you've worked for larger businesses.
Oh, yes.
Now you're in a small business.
Now I'm in a small business.
So what skills are there that you didn't acquire, or that did you think you need?
What skills do I think I need now
Yes.
that I did not acquire from a corporate environment? I think in the corporate world, everything was kind of set for you because it's a larger business, and the policies and procedures kind of served the masses, if you will. For a small business like Sun City Security, it's more intimate, and sometimes you can't be too general with a policy. I mean, I have to take into account I have less than 100 employees, and they're very dear to me. I want to make sure the things that I set forth are applicable and they're not too rigid, because at the end of the day, we're still a small family business. I have an open door policy. If there's something that's put forth and someone doesn't necessarily agree with, or they kind of went against a policy, they can certainly come and talk to me. They don't have to talk to HR. Let's see if we can figure this out. And that was a new experience, because my background was, that's the policy. You broke it. But you quickly realize, wait a minute, here's an employee that's coming in, and he's looking, or she's looking, because they have something to say that there may have been extenuating circumstances for whatever breach of policy. And I think you just need to adapt to that and listen to them.
So you have an open door. Most
definitely an open door policy.
But you're establishing your leadership.
Yes.
And why is that important?
To establish leadership, so someone has to drive the bus. Someone needs to show them where they're going to be 10 years from now. To let them I need to be 10 steps ahead, so I can tell them, we're going to be okay. Don't pay attention to the storm that's out there right now. You do your job. I get paid to manage that storm. I get paid to drive this bus. Just do what you need to do. You're safe. You're safe. And I would never want an employee to feel their job is in jeopardy or they're at risk, because I've been there. You know, I've worked for companies like that.
But with your background, you know accounting.
Yes.
So you know how to read the numbers.
Yes.
You know sales because you've
Yes.
done sales.
Yes.
So you get out there and you do the sales. You know how to deal with people because you've worked in large organizations. But your operations is a little different than
Yes.
what you've done.
Oh, yeah.
So what is it about your operations that is challenging?
Because in our operation, we deal with people every day. Every day. In my former life, so to speak, I was always dealing with products. And I was developing products for a need in a market. And it was the end users. But I wasn't really dealing with people at the end of the day. I mean, I would sell to buyers, but they in turn sold to people. Security is different. I have internal customers, which are my officers. And so I have to provide them customer service. That's the big difference. I have my staff are my customers. I need to provide them the service, and they in turn then provide it to our clients, which is customer service.
So in your business, who's number one?
In terms of, are you talking market share, or?
No, in your business. Who's the number one? Who's number one in your business?
Okay. For me, I mean, the way I'm a Christ follower, so for me, number one is the Lord.
Okay.
That's who I serve, and that's who my family serves. And most of the people in my office, we're all under that saying, you know, we know who we serve first. And so that kind of sets things in order that you don't have to really establish much after that, because you work as unto the Lord. You know, you work for Him.
And so what's next?
So what's next? Well, we grow the business. Now we start diversifying. We look, for me, I'm working on our state hub certification, and thereafterwards I'm going to work on my 8A certification to start getting government contracts, because I want to see Sun City Security go beyond El Paso. I took a vacation with my family to Corpus Christi this past summer, and we were driving through San Antonio, and we're driving in, and it's so huge, and every little strip mall or shopping center, I'd say Sun City Security. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm speaking it into existence."
Okay.
Go to Corpus Christi, I see the strip mall, Sun City Security. He's like, "Are you still speaking it into existence?" I said, "Yes, I am."
So what's important about security service for the public? What's important out there?
Security, I mean, you're protecting someone's assets and their property. You see all the construction going on around El Paso. And that's a good thing. It's what brings the economy up. You know, it's the growth of a city. But imagine you want to go and build, apartment complex, or you want to build a car wash, or you want to build an extension to a school, and they go to build and the supplies are gone. I mean, that's a huge blow to the contractors, and then they have to use their money, and so it just brings the economy down. So security officers, I mean, they secure and they protect assets.
And many are not armed.
Many are not armed. You know, those are level 2 officers, and they don't carry a weapon. But a security officer by itself, they should always be in uniform, have their name tag, have the name of their company present. Lots of times it's just that physical, they are a visible deterrence. If there's someone there walking around patrolling, it's a visible deterrence.
So they are a deterrent.
Absolutely.
And where do you put the armed guard?
It depends on the clients. Some clients want an armed officer, others they prefer not to. In the world that we live in right now, we have armed officers in churches. We have armed officers at big city events. We just had an event, down in the San Jacinto Plaza, where we had our armed officers, walking around patrolling, protecting the stage. That's the nature of the
So now
world.
where you have big events with a lot of people, you have armed officers.
You have armed officers, absolutely.
Wow.
Schools, we have armed officers in our schools.
Oh, you do?
Yes. of course.
So you have contracts with schools. And
Yes, yes.
So you're enjoying this challenge.
I am. I am enjoying it. And it's so funny you say that because just last Friday, you know, heading towards the weekend in the security business, it always gets a little hectic because a lot of people want their days off, and then you have people that call in sick, and especially over a holiday weekend, there's so many different events, and the likelihood of something going wrong rises. And so I think I was in my element. There were all of these things going on, all of these balls in the air, and I'm just kind of walking around and managing these different balls. And my HR, she said, "You're really enjoying this, aren't you?" And I had to think. I'm like, you know what? I am. I really am.
So what's most fun about running a business?
What's most fun about running a business? I think it sounds odd, but putting out some of the fires, like effectively, efficiently, catching things before they happen. I mean, to me, it's exciting, you know, because it's what we offer is a service, you know.
So you're not blown away by a problem that crops up.
No, it's exciting if you can figure out a problem. Now, mind you, I have an amazing team in the office. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine, and when something arises, as it always does, you know, right away the wheels kick into motion, and everyone has their assignment, and everyone starts working to fix that problem, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch.
So what is your mission?
My mission is to provide quality service to the citizens of El Paso at an affordable price.
And your staff, what is their mission?
I think they want to grow. I think they really want to grow, like in our office, to grow Sun City Security. The initial shock of, you know, my mom and dad passing and then it falling on me is gone. And they see some of the things that I put into place have actually made their lives a little easier in terms of the technology and some of the softwares and processes that we're doing.
So your background has been in large organizations.
Yes.
Now you're in a small business, but this is now yours. It's not like you're working for somebody else.
Yeah.
What's that like?
I try not to think too much about that because if you get in your head too much, then I don't want to think that this is my business. I'm working hard for an organization. I'm accountable to Sun City, you know, and to the people that work there, but I can't. The magnitude, when I think, you know, if you stop and think, you know, I have 85 families that I'm supporting, that can be overwhelming, you know, and so that's where the grace of God comes in. You know, you pray, you do the best you can. You know, I do my homework. I'm diligent, I'm vigilant, and give direction, take feedback, get some outputs, and
So how many hours do you sleep?
oh my gosh, you should ask my husband because he stays awake because I'm always in and out of bed. This past weekend, I don't know. We had a 3-day weekend. I think maybe I slept 20 hours this past weekend.
Are you always thinking about your business?
Yes, yes. And it's a blessing and a curse because you need downtime. You need a time to reset and to think clearly. And that's, I guess, you know, the beginning of my days start in prayer. And so I try to do that the best I can, but it doesn't stop. You know, I could be having dinner with my family and the wheels are turning. You know, is this okay? Was that taken care of? You know, I hope this goes off without a hitch. It doesn't stop.
How do you separate business and family?
Well, that's a big challenge. It's, right now, the business is a big part of our family. Well, it's a family-run business. And my brothers are, I mean, I still talk to them about it all the time. You know, I don't work in a vacuum. I have my 3 brothers that I always bounce ideas off of, and I guess look for guidance. What do you think about this? You know, this is what I'm thinking about. So it is still a part. I mean, it's not fully separated. I think it's always going to be, you know, because it's what I do now, and I'm not working for somebody, one person. Instead, I'm working for 85 people.
So that's a different accountability now.
Oh
In other words, you're accountable to a corporation. Now you're accountable to, you're saying, to your employees.
Absolutely. I am accountable to them. If I'm working for somebody, I'm hoping that they know what they're doing enough to keep me employed. And so I am accountable to my employees. I am accountable to where I can make their lives better. I would love to be able to give everyone a cost of living increase. That's what you do.
So you know what it is to have a security in your position.
Mm-hmm.
That's something very important to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Security in the sense that I can't be fired? Is that?
No, security in the sense that the employee has a secure paycheck.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that comes, again, it goes back to my dad, because that's who my dad was. There was a lady that worked in his office. She was hired, and he found out that she was going through a rough patch in life, and that she was living in Chaparral, and she had two young boys, and she was having a hard time paying some of her bills. And he told me, Jata, she reminds me of you, because I had two young boys, and I was divorced when they were very young. And out of his own money, he paid the utility bills for her. He bought her some heaters and stuff. You're accountable. You're accountable to. I'm accountable to God, but I'm also accountable to 85 families. Absolutely.
Wow, beautiful story. Well, Norma, I really appreciate you sharing the story
thank you
about
for the
Sincere
invitation.
Security Services. Warming story, and we are expecting great things from your
Amen.
leadership with that company. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching. Trust you enjoyed the program. Stay tuned. Have a good day.